Well, while the world fixed its eyes on St Paul's last Wednesday, for one family in London, Royal Wedding Day turned into a nightmare.
When a child goes missing in a big city like London, a system of procedures and plans goes into action. Like a wave travelling outwards from the centre, the police begin a search. It starts at the spot where the child was last seen, and it expands incrementally.
8-year-old Vishal Mehrotra disappeared in Putney while shopping with his nanny and sister. He's not been seen since.
The media issue appeals to the public, asking them to keep an eye out and report anything they may have seen.
At a press conference, Vishal's father, Mr. Vishal Mehrotra, described his son as a happy, clever boy who wouldn't dream of running away.
On the outside, things move quickly and with precision. But if you have the misfortune to be the family at the centre of it all, things feel very different. Time slows and blurs, and every moment they're gone is deep physical pain. I know this because Vishal, the boy who's missing, he's my brother. My name is Suchin Mehrotra. Around a decade after Vishal disappeared, our dad, Vishambar, remarried and then had me. So technically, Vishal is my half-brother. I've never fully understood what happened to him and to my family. I'm now 30, and as I've tried to learn more, all I seem to find are details that just don't add up, and stories that have no ending. And I'm desperate to find an ending. I need help to get to the bottom of what happened and why it happened, and how the hell it was even allowed to happen. To the people I love, and to the brother I've never met. The brother who, in many ways, has changed my life and shaped how I was raised and who I am today. From BBC Studios, this is Vishal. The true story of a boy who went missing while the world looked the other way. The story of his family, my family. And the story of the investigation into Vishal's disappearance. Chapter 2. The Search. Wednesday, the 29th of July, 1981, 7:42 p.m. 8-year-old Vishal hasn't been seen for more than 5 hours. His disappearance is reported to the Metropolitan Police. Jackie Moulton and Sean Keep, both police officers with the Met on Royal Wedding Day, describe what happens next.
A boy's gone missing, so the first thing that you can do is the physical search.
The early hours, it's very physical. We're going to go and search these woods, we're going to search this park, we're going to search throughout people's houses.
The house, the flats, the gardens, everything we could physically search was being searched. Garages, lofts, freezers and outbuildings, because he might be stuck in a shed. He might be stuck somewhere.
Searching open ground, house-to-house inquiries, making sure that all his friends knew that he was missing if they had any information around where he might be.
The surrounding streets, house to house, all of what we call that preliminary golden 24 hours. Has he fallen into a dustbin? Has he fallen into a pond? Has he gone into the River Thames?
Trying to rule out things so that you can say, where should we check next? Where should we check next?
Police search teams would examine all manhole covers, lift them off, go down the drains, go into the sewers, reservoirs. We do have specialist search teams in the Metropolitan Police. They have specialist dogs.
The Met Police have got fantastic resources. In 1981 or any time, to be honest, if a child's missing, you will get whatever resources you need. If they needed a team of horses or frogmen or boats or whatever to search a lake or whatever.
Police divers, police dogs, every conceivable piece of land or building or water within the vicinity, Putney, Barnes, Wimbledon, the River Thames, all around that was searched. And there was nothing. Nothing.
I don't know how many parents understand this. You never want to believe the worst. You never. You keep saying, oh, this or that could have happened, but there is always this little niggle at the back of your head that the worst could have happened. Not the question of him being kidnapped, but more a question of, did he, for example, fall down that bridge?
He disappeared. He just disappeared in a puff of smoke, to be perfectly honest. It was quiet. It was almost like the world was in like Mary Celeste. It was a Wednesday, but it was a bit like a lazy Sunday afternoon. People were in their own homes to watch this fairy tale wedding. The streets were deserted. Remember the events that Vishal, is seen crossing the road. He's plucked off the road. Nobody sees anything at all. And it's almost like fairy dust.
So there are two parts to the question, but I'm asking you,
I'm sitting with my dad in his living room. He's in his favourite spot on the sofa. Dad's now 77. I'm 30. We don't often talk about the details of what happened to Vishal and how it's affected everyone. Even though he doesn't show it, I know it's very difficult for him. Dad, I've got so many questions that I want to ask you about this. Everyone who knew you at that time, the way they all describe you, is very, very, very different to how you are today. Like personality-wise, how would you describe how much you changed versus who you are today versus who you are back then?
Well, I think you are the better person to be able to at least see what I am today. But I don't deny the fact that before this Vishal episode, I was an extrovert and happy-go-lucky and partying kind and lots of friends.
And obviously after you like sort of shut yourself off from all of that, you never thought to reconnect with any of those people? Or, I mean, even now it happens, we'll be out somewhere and you'll bump into someone and they obviously recognize you and they always sort of ask you, you know, because you're not in touch with them. So you never wanted to, because like I feel like there were a lot more people in your life, a lot more friends and stuff who you sort of distance yourself from.
If you're saying to me that I have secluded myself into a corner, I think that is true. I did become secluded. The Vishal thing caused me to go into myself. I did have a girlfriend in those days who used to live in Keswick Road. Her name was Jenny. I mean, I was separated from my wife. I think I might have called her on the day when he disappeared. Because, I mean, that would be a time when I would be completely nervous or shattered or whatever it is. But after that, Jenny, she was not part of my life anymore. I don't know why. I just wanted to be surrounded by people I felt close to. So very close friends of mine came to my aid. And maybe I was never close to Jenny and there was something I just didn't feel. I just pushed her away.
Friday, the 31st of July. 2 days after the royal wedding. 2 whole days since Vishal vanished.
My name is Jackie Moulton. In 1981, I was a detective sergeant in the Metropolitan Police, and I was given the task, which now is known as a family liaison officer. My job was to get to know the family and pass on anything that I thought was relevant. So you are there as an investigator, but you also are there as the link. You know, you're there to observe, you're there to get as much information you can. So my boss drove me to the house in Hobush Road in Putney, where Mr. Mehrotra was living. And he was, very, very courteous man, very polite, very welcoming, obviously troubled deeply about, the disappearance of his son. But he wasn't chaotic. He wasn't all over the place. He wasn't tearing his hair out. He was open to helping us with as much information as he possibly could.
Jackie became involved as a liaison officer, and she was a huge comfort. She wasn't the arrogant, tough cop. She was literally empathetic, caring, kind, considerate person. I needed that.
I think all detectives, all of us, felt the sadness of a little boy going missing. You do have a heavy heart about it. And I didn't really know what to do, whether to shake his hand or what. So I hugged him. I gave him a hug. I wanted him to know that we would do our utmost to find his little boy. We would do our best. And how could I convey that to him? And shaking somebody's hand, for me at that moment in time, didn't feel appropriate. A boy's gone missing, a very young boy that's just gone missing. You've got to be so careful in obtaining the background information. Gentle, gentle, gentle. Chat, chat, chat. Was there any suggestion that this boy had been kidnapped within the family? Because Vishamba was separated from his wife. As she was living in India, he had come over to London and he had brought the two children with him and he had a nanny. You wouldn't be a good detective if there wasn't an element that you had to look at, whether it was something to do with the dynamics of the family.
Obviously, I was separated from my wife. Of course, Vishal's mother, she didn't come immediately, but she came a few days later. She was interrogated on her arrival at Heathrow Airport.
Vishal's mum, Aruna, came into the UK from India and she was met at the airport by detectives to kind of establish a picture because she's flown in, she knows nothing, so it's very important to talk to her.
My father, he actually did think that my mother could have kidnapped Vishal. He did think it. Why she would only kidnap Vishal and not me was a question that I still have. What was going through his mind? I don't think it was his first reaction. His first reaction was Vishal's off playing somewhere, having fun with his friends, and he's just, got delayed or got carried away playing and, didn't realize what time it had come. Maybe he got tired and gone to sleep at their houses. It was not the first reaction that came to his mind, but yeah.
I was completely broken by this time. I just was so worried. So yes, there's a hope that Aruna would have abducted him. There's a hope that he would have gone to Aruna. There's a hope. You don't think of anything else. You just keep hoping. And with friends, they have this wonderful way of pacifying you. Don't worry, he'll walk right now. Any minute he'll walk in. Don't worry. The pacifying, that is what good friends do for you.
I don't have a preconceived idea that he was a suspect, Vishamba. I didn't have a preconceived idea that Aruna was a suspect or the nanny was a suspect. You can't have preconceived ideas because that's how you lose it. It is the search for the truth.
So Vishal's mum, Aruna, came back from India. She stayed in the house to be there for her family and find out what happened to her son. Today, Aruna is back living in India. She was approached by my sister, Mamta, about taking part in this series, but she felt that it would be too painful. However, the producers were able to contact one of Mamta and Vishal's childhood friends, Matthew. He was living right next door to them at the time, in Homebush Road in Putney. And I'm meeting up with him outside their old home.
I see Mamta, actually, in your face. That was the very first thing I saw. Yeah.
I will happily take that. Yeah. She was always the cool big sister that we had when we were kids.
Right.
Because of the age difference, so yeah, I
Right.
take that with pride. Do you want to just describe where we are now and
Sure.
the house we're looking at?
It's a semi-detached, so they're connected as buildings. It's an Edwardian maisonette style house with gorgeous, I think they're the tiles that I grew up with on the front porch, gorgeous Edwardian tiles. I'm looking down towards the basement, which is where I used to live, and maybe it's still there. Yeah, still is. There's this kind of slope of tiles that I used to play on as a kid, and when it was wet, that was especially slidey and good. I have memories of hanging out with Vishal out here, just on the street. My memories of Vishal are, I think it's something to do with, he seemed to have the self-possession and confidence of the firstborn, maybe. That's something like that. Yeah. There was something very secure. He was very secure in his skin, and there was a sparkle to him, probably a brightness, and that came with that confidence.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is also, I've only ever seen photos of him, so, how would you describe the way he looked, or interacting with him?
Smiley, slightly chubby of cheek, perhaps, but maybe that's not unusual. I've got 2 9-year-olds now, they're twins, and actually one of them has grown out of those lovely, slightly chubby cheeks, so maybe he had that sort of feature within him. I mean, it makes me even think, potentially, did he have dimples or anything like that?
I've definitely seen dimples in, again, I've only ever seen pictures.
Yeah.
Do you remember sort of either that day or the next day, do you remember sort of when you found out what happened or that he was missing, what that was like?
Well, the major memory of that time is giving a police statement in my kitchen, and the cloud, I suppose, that descended. The day itself has been memorialised in my own head courtesy of a strange, slightly kitschy gift that was given to all school children at the time, which was a mug commemorating the Prince Charles, Princess Di wedding. So that mug stayed in my family for forever, and so the memory of that time and of Vishal also hung around with that. And in a strange way, the nation was playing its princes and princesses, that particular fairy tale, and yet the dark side of that fairy tale is something very folk tale-ish in a way, the abduction and murder of a child, and something about that conflict was memorialized in that mug in a strange way for me. The landscape in the news at the time, Yorkshire Ripper is in my mind. I think, wasn't Peter Sutcliffe convicted in the same year, I think, in 1981? There was gruesomeness around. The long shadow of Ian Brady and Myra Hindley and all of that from the 60s was still somehow casting its shadow across even my childhood imagination.
Do you remember that interaction with the police and how it went down, what they asked you?
I remember being asked about whether Vishal had any money. I guess they were trying to work out whether he might have been able to get somewhere on his own with his own resources, and fumbling some answer about pocket money, perhaps. I think they understood that I probably didn't have much information to give, but they needed to do their job in terms of me being a neighbour and a peer.
I'll have to say you have to treat each case as it emerges and generally just start to open up the parameters of the inquiry.
Sean Keep was an officer in the Metropolitan Police at the time.
Check all his friends, school friends, start to work out who his school friends were. Has he gone to visit any of his friends? He could have had a row with his dad and he's decided to go and stay with his friends overnight or whatever. There's always those sorts of possibilities.
I mean, I could remember feeling that they were going through the motions with me rather than actually me being able to offer anything of use to them.
Those kids were 8 and 9, and you are interrogating them. I know because I've spoken to my friends. Did the police do what they were supposed to do? No. Sorry, I don't think so. In the first 24 hours is the most critical time from a child going missing. What did they do in the first 24 hours?
Sunday, the 2nd of August. Dad's 36th birthday. It's now been 4 days, nearly 100 hours since Vishal was last seen.
The longer a young boy is missing, his time travels away from us, then the less chance that you're going to find them alive. I went in a police helicopter. I remember having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I flew with this technical support team all over the commons, Barnes Common, Wimbledon Common, all the relevant commons around, with a thermal heat imaging machine, say whether or not looking for, dead body, to be honest. That's why we did it. And they were all dead animals. But that was an essential piece of work to be done.
As Detective Sergeant Jackie Moulton flew over West London, 50 miles away, a man was on his way home from work.
It was late morning, lunchtime. I can't be absolutely 100% certain of the time. So even this seems a bit strange to me now looking at this, because all this hedge is growing up.
This is Nigel.
There was no hedge here before.
He's meeting Colin Campbell, a local BBC reporter, to talk about something he remembers seeing at the side of the road near some woodland called Alder Copse in Sussex in that summer of 1981. If Nigel's memory is correct, this would be soon after Vishal disappeared.
You don't look old enough to be...
I don't look old enough.
No, I was thinking...
I was 21.
I see, you were young then.
Yeah,
Because it's 41 years ago, you see.
Yeah.
I was expecting a man in his 70s.
Oh, no, I'm not quite that antique. I had been working through the morning and was actually returning by car towards Petersfield from the Rogate direction along the A272. No traffic about, virtually gone the whole journey without seeing another vehicle up to the point that I saw this black Lancia car pulled in. And I slowed down looking at it, thinking, well, I wonder what they're doing there, because it's a strange place to park. There's a lay-by on the opposite side of the road that they could have pulled into, but they chose to pull in, on the verge, on the opposite side of the road. And as I slowed, I saw two younger guys, Asian guys, out in the field carrying fertiliser bags towards the copse in the middle of the field. And there was an older Asian man standing near the front of the car, nervously puffing on a cigarette, basically. So, as I say, that was perfectly obvious to me that these people were not where they should be. What were these guys doing out in the field, carrying fertiliser bags? Well-dressed guys out of a car in the middle of a field,
What was the date? Can you remember the exact date?
No, I don't recall the exact date.
No.
This may just be a hazy recollection. Perhaps something, perhaps nothing. But Colin, the journalist we hear there, will become central to this story.
Monday the 3rd of August.
Right.
3 years ago, he started delving into Vishal's disappearance for a local TV news report. Colin doesn't know it at this point, but he's pulling on a string that will lead him halfway around the world in search of the truth. Monday, the 3rd of August, 1981. Britain is still hungover after the royal wedding and only just starting to notice that this little boy hasn't been seen for nearly a week.
The way missing persons were dealt with in the 1980s. If it was an adult, unless there was clear indications of crime, a missing persons inquiry really for an adult wouldn't be taken on for a few days, because basically the police said, well, he's an adult. If someone wants to leave, they can go on their own accord. Were the child, it would have been different, of course. However, I don't think it would have been in the newspapers for a good few days. And that probably would have been an appeal.
So if you have seen Vishal or can help in any way, please contact Scotland Yard on 01, if you're outside London, 230 1212. So far, police have established that Vishal was last seen outside East Putney Tube Station at 2 p.m. on July the 29th, when he told his nanny he would make his own way back to their home in Homebush Road, 10 minutes away. This afternoon, police reconstructed the scene in the hope that someone has seen Vishal, who, when he left his nanny and sister, was dressed in a blue and white striped T-shirt, black corduroy trousers and blue training shoes.
So for me, this is the first video clip I've seen, of a news thing. Do you feel like overall, Dad, the media did a good job of really sort of putting his face everywhere and sort of telling people that if you've seen this boy, please help us?
So The boy they had used was a Patel, a Gujarati boy, but they did not bother to consider his height or what kind of person he would look like. In my opinion, they merely got the first Indian-looking boy who seemed to fit the reconstruction and put him there.
So from what I can see in the reconstruction, it's obviously their nanny, it's my sister Mamta, and a very tall-looking boy who's literally almost the height of their nanny. If at that time doing something like this was really instrumental to helping people sort of identify, if you've seen this boy, please let us know, then I assume finding someone who looks, resembles the person who's missing is essential.
What steps have the police taken so far? It's been, nearly 6 days now?
Yes, it has, and police are becoming acutely concerned for the safety of this little boy. And since he disappeared, we've made extensive inquiries to try to find him. We have searched all common ground, all railway sidings and the like, but unfortunately, to date, we haven't managed to find him.
So you now regard this as a fairly serious operation, clearly. Have you ruled out the possibility, we know, for example, that he was separated from his mother, that this is just an emotional boy who's run away from home?
I think it would be right to say that he's a bright, intelligent boy. We haven't ruled out any possibilities yet.
Keeping in mind the police can't say too much at that time, but I guess at that point all he's trying to say is just trying to get the public to say if you've seen this boy.
These police officers in the initial stages try to hedge their bets. They don't want to give anything away. That's why the word always is everybody's a suspect and nobody's a suspect.
What do you think we're talking about then? Being kidnapped or possibly worse?
I don't think I would like to say at this time that I think he's being kidnapped. One keeps one's options open at this stage, and we hope that our inquiries will lead us to find him in a very short space of time.
It dawns on you on a daily basis. Tonight he's not home. So the first week was like, okay, I have my room to myself. And this is great. And God knows what he's up to. But at that point, you're thinking he's off playing with his friends. And the next week you think, why isn't he back yet? By now, he should have been back. And then you start feeling the emptiness.
Mams has said to me since, that she didn't understand the seriousness of Vishal because the little boy and a little girl are together, brother and sister, and they said, I've got more space now, I can have his bedroom. But a child cannot comprehend what's happened. Their life's been turned upside down by a team of police officers, preoccupation with Vishal going missing. You can only imagine what that would feel like.
So then for him not being around after a week and after a month, and I also, it was a very weird time for me because I'd never seen my parents even living together, forget, working together or trying to build something together. So for me, having my mom and dad in the same house was equally traumatic. My parents separated when I was 2. So I had never actually seen them in like a room together. It's weird, but there was a day where there was just pin drop silence in the house and we had like 20, 25 people over and we were watching Tom and Jerry, and there are strange things that kind of stick in your head. You watch Tom and Jerry, you laugh, and I was laughing at Tom and Jerry and somebody came in and actually asked me not to laugh. Another person came right behind them and said, no, let her laugh if she wants to laugh. I mean, they're just kids, leave them alone. It was just, that navigating all of that when you're very, very young.
At this point, time starts to blur for my family. That specific moment Vishal turned the corner to walk home by himself gets further and further away. But the pain gets worse. 2 months later, in September 1981, Vishal is still missing on his 9th birthday. Autumn turns into winter. At Christmas, Dad takes Mamta to New York in a desperate attempt to get some respite. Meanwhile, police are now investigating hundreds of possible sightings of young Indian boys phoned in by members of the public all around the country. Not one of these takes them to Vishal. They speak to more than 10,000 people, 10,000. And they continued to question my dad.
One thing about a police officer, your role, you need to get in there, find out as much as you can without being over-intrusive. But nevertheless, this is like, bang, I'm in your house. I need to know this and I need to observe that and I need to ask questions which will give me those answers in a way that when they hear my question, they may not think that's what I'm after, but I am after it. That's a combination of skills, I think, that when you enter the dynamics of a family, you've got to find out. And also, it is intrusive. For example, I need to know the circumstances of why he's ended up in this country with 2 children as a single father. I need to know what happened in the marriage, or was there any violence? Sometimes you have to preface it by saying, I'm really sorry I have to ask this question, but I do need to know the answer.
The police, I think they were doing their job. I'm assuming they were doing their job. I mean, Jackie was virtually there almost every week, 2 or 3 times, if not, sometimes spent hours with us. But I had no reason to believe, whether through Jackie or otherwise, that they were not doing their investigation or their duty. Except for that time when, in the beginning, who was that detective superintendent who gave me the 3rd degree in my own house, telling me angrily that I had killed my son. Without using the word murdered my son, saying, you know more than you're telling me. I think it was a senior chap who came to my house, this was not at a police station, and gave me the 3rd degree. You know more than you're telling me. You know where your son is. You're not being honest with me. But it was in sheer anger and hatred. Either he was digging unnecessarily, or he was frustrated, or he was angry. I don't know which one to make, but he was attacking me. Not physically, verbally. He brought me to tears, yes. To be honest with you, I wish I had a gun to shoot.
On the 21st of February 1982, 2 men are out in the countryside shooting pigeons. They discover a skull and a number of other bones in a small patch of woodland called Alder Copse, near Chichester in West Sussex. The bones appear to have been disturbed by foxes and are found buried in boggy ground at a depth of around 2 feet. Next time, Dad gets a phone call at work, which changes everything. The producers of this series approached the Metropolitan Police for comment. Their statement said, "There is nothing we can usefully contribute to your program more than 40 years on." Vishal is a BBC Studios podcast. It's presented by me, Suchin Mehrotra. The series was written and produced by Satyesh Manoharaja. Audio production, sound design and original music by Steve Urquhart. The executive producer is Alistair Jackson.